This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, the very best podcast for regular comic book fans. I'm your host, Mike Rappin, and joining me this week, a good friend of mine, Zander Riggs, the longtime editor of I Read Comic Books. You haven't heard him in almost 400 episodes. It's crazy. Zander, welcome back to the show. It's been so long. I literally haven't talked to you since that episode.
That's not true, but that's, no, I talked to you.
No, here's the thing about improv. It's yes and.
Oh,
and
sorry. I haven't spoken to you since the second age of the moon, Michael.
Thank you. That doesn't make any sense. What is fantasy? Anyways, we are here. This is the 500th episode of I Read Comic Books. I'm here to goof around with my friend and also talk about comic books. But I do have a couple of announcements before we get into things. Number one, we have some new merch on the shop. If you go to ircbpodcast.com/shop, you can see all the very cool 500th episode stuff that we had commissioned. Our good friend Flynn Nichols, who did all the avatars for the show, put together this beautiful 500 episode cover that we're going to use for today's episode. If you're listening to this, check your podcatcher. It's really cool. I said, hey, remember that scene in Old Boy? What if me and Zander were killing podcast demons? And Flynn said, no problem. Our good buddy Kyle Rose, who designed the IRCB logo, also a comic book artist, put together a huge little poster. I think we might put it on a t-shirt as well, full of all sorts of inside jokes and little bits and stuff. So make sure you check out that photo that's on the shop. It's all sorts of fun stuff in there. And then Sam Melendez made what I had in like a fever dream. This picture of a magical girl. She's very nervous, but she's screaming, I read comic books. It's very cool. It's very awesome. Put that on a t-shirt, put that on a pillow, put that on a sticker. Go buy it, ircbpodcast.com/shop. It's all really cool. We have so many things to talk about today in celebration of this episode, but I have two legally mandated questions that I have to ask, and that is, how have you been? How have comic books been? Xander, you're the only other person on the show. Let's start with you.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. It's great to be here.
Long time no talk. No, I mean, Xander, you haven't been on the show in a long time. Do you remember comic books? Are you still reading comic books? I mean, what's happening with you?
I am still reading comic books, although I will say that I've not been reading as many comic books as I did back when we first started the show. Definitely fallen off, though. Sure. Listening to the show every week, as I do, to edit the podcast, I have definitely picked up, I think, the good stuff. I'm using y'all as a filter for give me the best. Just bring those ones to me. So I, this last week, read Helen of Wyndhorn, which has been talked about on the show. You recommended it to me while we were in the comic book shop when we were visiting you there in Jersey. And I know that Kait Lamphere has talked about this on the show before. And I believe it's on her best of, it was what she put up for best of 2025.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I picked that up, started reading that. It's a nice hardbound book, which for those listeners who even remotely remember me being on the show, or maybe just echoes of me being on the show with Mike talking about my love of paper stock, this is a well-printed book. I like this book. Feels good.
Hell yeah.
Helen of Wyndhorn is, I think, one of the more interesting books I've read recently. It's a general premise is about this woman, Helen Cole, who is returned to her family estate after the death of her father. Her father is this well-known writer within the universe of the book. And she finds that the things within his book are sort of like bleeding into reality. And through that, this book is like a story about her processing the grief of her father, and also sort of like uncovering family secrets. I won't speak too much more about that because I know that Kait brought that up on the show before. But I really enjoy this book. Both the so it's written by Tom King with art by Bilquis Evely and colors by Matthias Lopez and letters by Clayton Coles. Book looks great, just front to back. Book looks good, and the story, I think, about like dealing with grief and sort of these aspects of like fantasy and depression, the places where your mind can go during these times in your life, I think was really compelling for me. So, yeah, I would also recommend this book for anyone. I've only read issues 1 through 3 of the 6 issues in this book, but even with just those 3, I'm like, love this.
Oh yeah, you're in, right? You're in for the full ride, right? Yeah, I mean, it's one of those books that I sat down to read, and I was like, I don't know. The first issue I thought was interesting, but I'm like, I don't know, man. This seems like it's going to be a bunch of bullshit. And then it turns out that bullshit is like really, really good, and it'll hurt you in good ways. You're going to feel a lot of things because clearly Helen she's in a state, you know. Yeah, I'm glad that you're digging that book. I'm glad that you picked up the hardcover. I don't know if that's from the library or if you bought that, but
I bought it in Jersey when we were there.
You bought it in Jersey. Okay, anyways.
Why
Zander
book.
was in New Jersey as well as some of the other IRCB crew, we will get to a little bit later. But yeah, I forgot. Listen, my things happen to me all the time and around me all the time. I can't remember all of them. I'm sorry, I forgot that. I just was happy that you and I got to sit down and play Magic. Okay, man?
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you're reading this. You're going to have to let me know what you think when you get to the end of it, because I feel like while you've gotten through the more exciting pieces of the book, oh my gosh, that back half, it's real good stuff.
I did one of those like little cheat peeks where I kind of like flip through the pages just to see what's going on. It gets like really colorful, and I instantly slammed the book closed. Like, I don't want to spoil that.
Right. I mean, Matheus Lopes is an incredible colorist. I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. He is incredible. But I'm glad you're reading this. But let me talk about a book that I am reading or have just recently read. I guess I have been all over the place the past week or so. Yesterday I went to my first ever Magic pre-release. I went to play Lorwyn. I went 2-1, excuse me.
Nice.
The only reason I won is because my really, really good Magic friend, he helped me rebuild my deck basically in between the second and the third match. And that was what won it for me, because I'm still not good at deck building. So lots to learn, but I had some fun. Got to play with some new cards. Everybody looked at the cards that I pulled and they were like, huh, no wonder your deck kind of stinks. And I'm like, yeah, it's just bad draws, right? Like sometimes you just get bad packs, and that's all you can do about it. But
I expect to see these cards in the post show.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah, I'll find my deck. It's over here. But anyway, I played Kithkin. You know, I had to go to Kithkin typo with a little bit of splash of elves to make things work. But we'll get into that in the post show. Otherwise, been busy just prepping my house for things to come. That's not ominous. I have been reading a lot of comics. I've been getting into this habit, and my New Year's resolution wasn't exactly to like read a comic every day, but it was to be like, there's no excuse for me to not read a single issue of comics every day because I have the time, right? I just spend a lot of time watching YouTube or getting on freaking social media, TikTok bullshit, and making myself feel bad about the world and myself. When I could be reading comic books and feeling mad and angry about the mediocrity of so many books that are out there. So I've been doing that, but I did stumble upon a book that was really, really good. And I put it on my pull list a while ago. I think I have the physical copies at my shop. I just haven't been there to pick it up. This is Our Soot-Stained Heart from Mad Cave Studios, written by Joni Haig and Stippen Morian, art by Stippen Morian, colorist Rope Man, letters by our maybe one of the most talented letters in the business today, Hassan Otsmani Elhau. This is a, quote, steampunk Santa story. That's the pitch. It's literally on the cover, a steampunk Santa story. It makes no sense to me that this book, because it's like the most European fantasy sci-fi thing you could ever think of, but like that should be a compliment to this book. The story follows young Peggy Stones, who has made Governor Glass very mad by upsetting the power imbalance of their home city, the Coalition. Coal is the most prized possession in the city, and in order to get it, you need to be a bad person. That's the implication here. So Peggy, fueled by the fire of an underground rebellion, decides she needs to find the Baron, the person who annually delivers coal to the Coalition, and convince him to stop giving coal to these people. This is not a kind tale by any means, but it's kind of wacky, unexplained steampunk science-y, and a peek into this alternate universe where the Baron is Santa Claus, who's kind of this semi-absent-minded, I don't know, like scientist of sorts who just thinks that giving coal to people is good because people need coal in order to survive in this steampunky time. The town that they live in, the coalition, seems to just be riddled with people who are intentionally doing bad things in order to get more coal. But there's this weird thing where like there's a power imbalance where the rich are taking more of their share of coal. And I haven't really figured out how that all works. And I don't think we're ever going to get that explained, because I think the idea of the rich get richer, the poor stay poorer is a pretty understood idea. You don't really need to explain the mechanics of offset capitalism to anybody in the modern age. But there's something kind of wacky about this book that is fun and offbeat. Like, I couldn't help but enjoy it. Like, it's so weird, right? The pacing is so funky. The characters are just bizarre and they don't match panel to panel, but you still know who everybody is. I did have to flip back and forth a couple pages to like make sure that I was following the right person from page to page. But on the whole, like, you get who these people are, and the like strange pacing of everything and like the direction that the book goes is enough to keep me super intrigued. And knowing that it's only a 4-issue series, I'm like, let's go. We have to go fast. This does remind me of like some European grimy sci-fi books that I've read before, namely The Meta Barons. If anybody read that, there's kind of just a strange pacing to thing where nothing's explained and characters have these archetypes to them that I'm like, I don't know if I fully understand this, but I'm still having fun. That's kind of the vibe that I get. It's not grimy, it's not sci-fi. This does feel like more of an uplifting book in general, but like that strangeness is there. I will say Morian's art is bonkers too. The chaotic and exaggerated, like grounded faces and people and just situations we find all of the characters in are really, really cool. The line work is extremely detailed, but without being like a James Stokoe level, like every little thing needs to have a pencil and an ink. There's like this meticulousness to the art style that I really, really enjoy. It feels almost chaotic, but like contained at the same time. So great looking book overall. And I have to shout out Hassan Otsmani-Elhaou. He manages to make the lettering like part of the art in this book. It's not just blotches of text that happen to narrate what's happening. He like fits word bubbles in between people. Like he had the tail of a letterer that for a horn to say honk, like living inside of the bell of the horn. Like at one point, our main character Peggy is like overlapping a dialogue box as she's clearly supposed to be like frantically screaming at someone. And it's like when you see someone in reality doing that, you're like, I can't tell if I should be paying attention to you or what you're saying. And I really liked how Otsmani-Elhaou just like managed to vibe that all together. Like, again, this guy is so talented. He deserves every single award that he gets. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about this, Zander, I know you've got a million things to say and I'm just monologuing here, but Mad Cave is doing this deal for this book where you can buy all 4 digital issues and get the trade all as one bundle, and they'll give you each issue as it comes out to your inbox. Dang. And it's DRM free and you just get it. And I think that this is the most genius way to sell a comic book to anyone ever. You get the issues and then you get the trade mailed to you when it's all done. Like, that's fantastic. So
that's super cool.
So cool. So cool. Mad Cave. This is the first Mad Cave book I think I've read in earnest and I'm loving it. So 2026, am I all in on Mad Cave? Finally?
Do you have to go all in? You're either all in or all out?
Yeah, it's either that or I read no comic books in 2026.
Damn. That's harsh. I haven't heard about this title before. I'm looking at some of the preview art. It looks really good. The stuff that I'm seeing, this looks incredible.
It does. Again, there is like this thing that I think some people would be bothered by. I know some people would be bothered by. Like, people on this podcast would be bothered by the inconsistencies of the art style where, like, page to page, like characters like Peggy Stones or other people that we're supposed to recognize don't look identical, right? Their features change a little bit, but their identity doesn't, right? Like this woman, she has, stark white hair and she's got these deep eyebrows. That doesn't change, but like her face shape definitely changes where you're like, that's a different woman page to page, but you know that it's her because of the white hair and the eyebrows. It's like, I could see being very bothered by that, but in my head, I'm just like, that's just how the European do it, man. Like, you just got to go with it.
So I was reading. So the other book I was reading, I'm going to break, because I'm guest on the show, but listen, I edit this thing, so I'm going to break all the rules, right? So another book that I read, I also picked up at the comic shop while I was visiting you. And it is a large print version of Darth Maul.
Black, red, and white. Yeah, Black, red, and white or something?
Will I ever remember the order of those colors? Who knows?
No. Yeah.
But didn't have that as my primary book this week, if only because as I was reading it, I had those same thoughts of like, I'm pretty sure this is the same guy, but he's got different proportions in every single panel.
Sure.
I notice him because he's got like, you know, the spikes and everything, but that was another interesting book that I read recently because it's an anthology. Too many creatives to list, and I won't read you the novel of that, but I am a sucker for an anthology series. And even though I have, I think, some criticisms of that book as a whole, I think that book is really interesting in the way that it expands the Star Wars universe. For those who are watching, I am a fan of Star Wars.
Zander behind him has a big baby Grogu for those that are just listening.
Let me shout out my family real quick. This is a painting done by my stepdad, who this was
so cool.
I turned him on to The Mandalorian back in Quar, and then he took a painting class and then gave that to me for Christmas one year. But
back in Quar, I like that. Yeah. I'm right there with you, man.
Good.
I didn't know you were so hip. That's all.
Reading that book, I think I had some criticisms of it, but the way that it expanded certain aspects of the Star Wars universe, I thought was really interesting. There's one story in there that is like, what if Star Wars was adjacent to Cthulhu? And it was basically pitting Sith and Jedi as, even though they are opposites, they are on the side of order versus chaos. And so we have this interesting, what I thought was an interesting little story about Darth Maul sort of interacting with the stranger, more alien aspects of the Star Wars universe, which who knows if that's canon, but it was cool to read.
It's canon in your heart, Zander.
Yeah, exactly. I hold the canon in my heart for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm always a sucker for anthologies, because it's sort of like when it's about one specific property like this Darth Maul book was, like the other Star Wars anthologies where like they did one for Boba Fett, they did one for Darth Vader. I think it's interesting to see how it sort of like paints the property with like a, you know, almost in a watercolor, like a broad brush of like, here's some stuff you haven't seen, which as I think many of us on the show like our anthologies, it is kind of can be jarring when you're like, oh, yeah, is that real?
Listen, man, we got to get you on these EC comic books that are coming out, right? Like Creepies, the you know, Cruel Universes. You know, I think they're, if you pick a genre, they've got an anthology for you at this point. But yeah, interesting. Cheating on my show, man. Now I got to find another book to talk about. No, I'm not going to.
Come on.
Listen. The only other books that I read I read Skin Police. I guess, does that count? I read Skin Police 1 through 4. Thought it was good. Very upset that it's only 4 issues and then that I got to go find copies of 1 through or Skin Police 2. But you know, I like the idea of the series. I just wish it wasn't so short. I wish they just kept it going. I don't know why they cut it off and then immediately did a sequel. It's like that Into the Unbeing series, which is a really dark, twisted, fucked up little thing that Zach Thompson put out. Really, really loved it, but like it just ends and then they did a sequel and I'm like, who is the person over at whatever publishing company's doing this? And I think it's Oni Press, thinking that this is the way to do comics. Because here's the thing. I don't think that if you, random comic book person, saw Skin Police 2 number 1 on the shelf, you'd pick up number 1 because you're like, it's the second one. It's like if you go to Blockbuster, we're traveling back in time now. If you're at Blockbuster in 2003 and you're walking through the horror section and you see Leprechaun 2, are you just going to pick that up? I don't know. Probably not. Wait, Danny is the proof listener. He's nodding yes. Okay, maybe this is a bad comparison. Then I think Leprechaun's a bad franchise to compare to, because you really can jump into any of those movies and it's probably fine. Yeah. Anyways, it's weird. I really like Skin Police. The grittiness. I really like Daniel Geet as an artist. I think he does grotesque in a way that is really smart, and I really like it. And the bright colors on this book are disgustingly good for the violence and for the action that is in this book. So really like Skin Police, but got to read the next bit. We got to move on though. We got to talk about comic books that are new or old or just something you're trying to get off the top 5 pile. So we're going to move on to that. I want to shout out everybody who sent over books from our Discord today. Shout out to the folks hanging out with us on Discord today. Jeff is going to be reading Orange, the complete collection #1 from the Reading Challenge. I just finished that book as well. 9 out of 10 for sure. Sugars is going to be reading 10,000 Ink Stains by Jeff Lemire. Simon's going to be reading Giger Volume 4 or Geiger. Is it Giger or Geiger? I don't know. Danny's Geiger. Okay. Danny's going to be reading Inglorious X-Force #1. I wish I knew how to quit them, he put in the notes. You know, Danny, I'm glad that someone's reading X-Men. Then I don't have to feel bad that no one's reading X-Men, because I certainly am not. And then Nick is going to be reading Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Man #2. Miss Truesdale, I really got to get on those books, because it's Bad Boy of Comics, Jesse Lonergan drawing comics for Mike Mignola. That's so cool. But yeah, Zander, what is on the top of your pile this week? What are you reading next?
Up next for me is Space Usagi, Death and Honor by Stan Sakai. This is something that you can identify with. It's a book that I bought and put on my shelf, and then I never read it. I went to our local, I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, like many, a big portion of the podcast crew.
Give us your full address.
Yeah. And 123 Fake Street. And I went to the one of our local shops here, Tardy's, which I know Paul goes to. And I picked this up. I was actually there with Renee, if I remember correctly. And I picked up a few, 2 volumes actually of Usagi Yojimbo. And one of them was this Space Usagi, volume 1. And I looked at that and I was like, I like this rabbit samurai, but I've never heard of this title before. So instantly bought that. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into this, I think, later in the show, but Usagi Yojimbo is one of these series that I think I've had a long-standing connection with. Maybe one of the first comic books I've ever read.
Okay.
And I think I would say among the first comics that I've ever read, and probably informs something about the who I am and the stuff that I consume, maybe.
Sure. Yeah. Well, interesting. I mean, Usagi Yojimbo is great. I read those first 7 volumes and I fell in love. I definitely want to read more, but I feel like it's like Turtles, right? Where like after a certain point, I'm like, I don't even know where to start. And then, you get IDW rebooting the series and going, okay, here's a starting point. But yeah, I mean, Stan Sakai, I love that he's still doing it, right?
Yeah.
He's been doing it for freaking 40 years and he's still putting out freaking rabbit samurai stories. That's so cool.
I love it.
It's great. It's so great. Well, let me know if that's a good jumping on point, or if I should just find a random trade and just start there, because I think maybe that's also the answer.
I mean, I've got some thoughts about it. So maybe this is too much for this. I got to spill my opinions here on the show. I think that trying to find a good place to start is a way of doing it. Personally, I think it's incorrect. The way that I started reading comics was to pick up a comic and then not know what was going on.
Here's the thing. That's right. That's probably right. And I feel like I've given that advice myself in the past. I just can't take it. I can't take my own advice.
I don't think it's a hot take. I think that there is like I don't know how it's definitely from before our times. It's a old thing of like, oh, you got to start with this issue, or you got to start with this one. And I don't think that's true, if only because I trust readers. If a book is good, I trust readers to like pick things up through context clues. Like you can,
a good writer will include that stuff, right?
Right. And if you don't pick that up, then that's not a good book, right? Like
get their asses.
Get them.
Get the comic industry. Get all of them.
Me versus the big 3.
This is why Zander can't be on the podcast. His takes are too hot. They're too hot.
I start fights. But no, I think especially with stories like Usagi Yojimbo, like a lot of these things, you start an issue and it's like, this is the beginning of his adventure. And so you could start on issue 6 or whatever and read the next 6 issues. And I think that's how a lot of books are set up, actually. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
we just have to take it not so seriously, right? We just read the books.
Yes, exactly. I mean, it's funny. Folks are going to hear this because we recorded it in the past before this episode. But the goon we talked about on another episode, and we're like, this is a Hellboy type, right? It's basically like a Hellboy, right? You start with this little story, maybe it's 6 issues, maybe it's 1 issue, whatever, you just get a thing. I think Stan Sakai nails that way back in the 80s when he starts with Usagi, where it's just like, hey, yeah, here's a story, Usagi's just gonna like help this lady, and then there's gonna be a bad samurai, and then he's got to fight him, and then they're gonna go and they're gonna stick out their tongue, and the little skull is gonna be above their head, and that's gonna be the story. And then later he starts to do these longer things that are ripping off Kurosawa films, but also like paying homage to them at the same time. And I love that. Like, it's just, you can kind of just plop in anywhere into Usagi's story and get something interesting out of it, right?
Yeah, I think there's like there's something to older, I don't even know if it's like older comics, but it's a type of storytelling that is maybe derived from like parables and fairy tales, where it's like, this is the story of this thing, and it's got a beginning and an ending. And if you have a character specifically like Hellboy or like Usagi Yojimbo, you can just say, this is the story of that thing, and we're going to start it here. And the character that is the through line for this other story. And I think that's why he can retell Kurosawa, take a Kurosawa film and put it into a rabbit samurai story, and it just works.
Yeah. I mean, you could call it like, these are almost like mythological stories, right? Where know of the deity, of the, what is it, the guy Journey to the West, right? Like it's like that, where there's just like pieces of things, and very interesting. So anyways,
what about you?
For me, I'm going to be reading Batman and Robin Year One, because I'm on a DC kick, right? 2025 was apparently the year of DC for Mike, and I don't think that it's stopping. Fans rejoice out there. I think that I finally am done with the bullshit that is Marvel, and I'm on DC. No, I look at DC just keeps putting out these books that seem more interesting than anything that Marvel is doing, because they are not bogged down by continuity. Like Danny's reading that Inglorious X-Force #1, and I'm like, what even the fuck is that? Right? I need to maybe I need to look at the cover and see if it's interesting. But I looked at the cover of Batman and Robin Year One, and I said, yes, immediately. Then I looked at the creative team, and I said, double yes, 1,000%, shoot it into my veins. This is Mark Waid and Chris Samney, colors by Matheus Lopez, letters by Clayton Coles and Chris Samney. I mean, like, this is an all-timer of creative mashups, right? Matthew Lopez, we just talked about, right? Doing art on things. Like, looking at the color work of this book, I have no idea what it's about, but it looks like nostalgic for something that I have no nostalgia for. And it's all in the color work. Samney's work, I think if you've been in reading comic books for a while, his work is just beautiful. It is so like comic book shit, better than anybody else out there right now, in a lot of ways. And I think his work on Spider-Man, Daredevil, Firepower, right? Like, it all looks fantastic. And then to see him paired up with Mark Waid, who is a GOAT, right? He's just one of the greats of all time, of our modern era. He knows how to write a good superhero book, and I think this is going to be great. I know that this book was getting accolades when it was coming out. It's 12 issues long. I've got the hardcover sitting on my shelf. I'm ready to just go headfirst into this. So, it's going to be great. I'm confident, and I feel really, really excited about it. There's been a lot of really good Batman books, I think, over the last couple of years. I think this one is supposed to be one of the greats, so I'm very excited for that. But that's pretty much it. I'm just reading more DC books. It's just so easy to be like, here's a trade, here's 2 trades, and then you're done. Rather than, did you read all of Krakoa and then Death of X? Because that's going to be relevant to this next thing. And I'm like, no, they lost me at Death of X. I'm done. I'm so mad about it. I'm never not going to be bitter about the fact that I'm not reading X-Men right now.
At the same time, I'm looking at this book, Batman and Robin Year One, and I was thinking, how many Year One comic? I think I know the story of Batman now. What are we adding here?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually.
Got to read to find out.
I don't know what this is going to be about, and this is like the perfect example of why like Cape's books keep people coming back, is because sometimes I just need something easy. Like, I just need another story where it's a roundup of our classic 10 characters doing something, and that's it. And then the thing is, I don't need it every week, right? I don't need a reboot every year, but like every 5 or 7 years, I'll take a 12 issue series that just kind of revisits these characters in a new light, right? I think seasons are probably the right way for everything to be. And then every couple of years we do like a reboot. When we tell everybody that it's going to be a reboot, we get to final conclusions. We get to actually wrap everything up in a big bombastic way, and then we start a new universe. I don't know, because otherwise just end all the books and start something new, because quite honestly, everything about these superhero books is tiring. I don't know, but I listen, I'm an enigma. I love it and I hate it at the same time. But a good comic book art will keep me coming back, Zander. That's all that it is.
See, Batman is also a character you could drop into a story and have him be the through line for a little adventure. So is Usagi Rabbit Samurai Batman?
Yes. We solved it.
What did we solve? I don't.
took us 500 episodes, but we finally figured out comic books. Is that the true path to success and enlightenment in the comic book industry is to just write myths. Don't write comics. Don't write fiction. Write myths. That's the answer.
Damn.
With that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we've got a bunch of questions from listeners. And we're a couple of other things, and we're going to do the panelist episode. Who is Zander? Who is Mike?
No idea.
Hopefully all this will be answered and more when we come back. For the second half of our show, a classic IRCB break. We haven't had one in a very long time, but we're here for this panelist episode to ask the question, who is Zander? And maybe we'll get to who is Mike. I think you, if a listener of this show for a very long time, probably know who I am at this point. I feel like I'm a mostly open book. I'm a book with half my pages visible, okay? But really the question that folks probably have at home is, who is this guy Zander who has only been on the show a handful of times? I think I have actual perfect numbers on that, but
look it up.
Who are you, Zander? Who are you outside of editing I Read Comic Books? Or maybe you could tell folks at home how you got into this show, because I think the hyperbolic story that I tell about how I had to wrestle you down and force you into this podcast maybe isn't exactly true. And the fact that you've continued to do it and I live 700 plus miles away means that the aggression's not actually there. So could you tell us about like who you are, how you got into this show?
That's so big a question. I was thinking about that this morning. Actually, no, I've been thinking about that for the past week in preparation for this. I was like, who am I? Let me take a big step back, because I didn't introduce myself at the top of the show. I just assumed that everybody knows who I am, because you've been saying my name for 700 episodes across all of our stuff. I'm Zander. I edit the show. I like comic books. I like a bunch of other things too, but we are gathered here by our shared love of comic books, and also because we were all in one way or another strong-armed by Mike into producing this. I guess to say a little bit about myself, beyond that, I think partly needs to be like framed by how I know you, and how and my participation in the show. So I guess a little background about me. I was let me just like fully dox myself, right? So I was born in California. I moved to Michigan. I then went to school here through high school, college, and now this is where I live. And I found this group sort of serendipitously, we'll say, because I don't know, in going down memory lane, I love to tell my side of the story and then to hear your memory of it as well.
Sure.
So I remember meeting Mike in the spring of 2008. Is this your memory of it? Do you remember this?
Yeah. I know where you're going.
Okay.
With this. Keep going.
So I was convinced by our mutual friend, Ben Perry, to attend a meeting of the university television network back in 2008. I was in a broadcasting class. This seemed like a natural thing to do. And through that group, I found this sort of group of friends that I guess had met a little bit before that, and met Mike. Mike was extremely driven, very single-minded, and anything that did not align with the vision, trash. We throw it away.
I mean, 100%. You're defining who I am, or who I was at least. Yeah.
And I did some work on, because you were a big man on campus. You had pitched a show. You were shooting a show, right? Yeah. We'll do the heavy air quotes. Yeah. And for me, I was like, this is cool. This is fun. I didn't have any pressure on me, and I was just hanging out, giving whatever expertise I had to the programs I got to work on. This is how I also met Renee and also Brian. And through this, but I would say that you and I didn't really hang out.
No.
I would say, and I'm going to throw out a time for you. I don't think you and I were friends until 2013.
Yeah, it would have been after college, pretty much. Like, I think we were in the same circle of friends, right?
Yeah.
Like, we would go to all the same parties, right? But we never were like, hey, let's go get lunch together, right? We were never like, oh, let's go study together, right? We were we knew a lot of the same people, and so we would see each other frequently, but we were never like buds, right? Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with that.
And I mark the first time that we like really truly hung out and like had a one-on-one was 2013 C2E2. You and I road tripped down and back. Whatever ride situation you had set up fell through or something. I was on the fence about going, and I think either you or a mutual friend like reached out to me, and it's like, hey, if you go down, Mike needs a ride.
Yeah.
And then it was just you and I day trip to Chicago.
Yeah.
I have that locked in my brain as like the first time I spoke at length with you about life.
It's funny because in my head, I'm like, that probably was the moment, but in my head, I was like, "Oh yeah, me and Zander are friends." And I say this not in I do this with people where I will go, "Oh, I met this person once, and I had a good time with them, even if it was in a group. We're buds now. That's just how we're friends now, and I could call on them at any time; it would be fine." But then I realized, oh no, I'm a distant acquaintance to them, and I'm making too much out of this friendship, right? But no, I agree. And I think, but I recognize this in myself, in that I will glom onto people and I will hold on to them with every fiber of my being, and either they will become my friend or I will never speak to them again. Right. And I don't want to act like I'm some overbearing piece of shit, but I do think that I hold on to people sometimes, and then I'll go, oh no, all of you get together, and I'll just throw you all in a room. And then you will all become friends together. And then I'll go, yes, this is my friend group. Yes. and I credit myself with this because I go, would you know, half of the people that you know right now had and I'm not just crediting just me, because it's also Brian, it's also a bunch of other people, but we do, especially in late college and after college, we would just throw everybody into a party room and then continue and go, no, you guys are all friends now. Give each other's numbers. Get together now. And
Well, so I also credit you with this as well. I think so. As a person who is generally more reserved, as a person who is generally more introverted, I think I require people like you to give me those opportunities, because man, if it were up to me, I might not be doing that. Mike not beating the cult leader accusations, says Paul in the chat. No, I think so. I truly, I think I was saying this to you earlier this week when we were talking about other stuff, that I think I said that I used the word blame, but you and Ben Perry for putting me in these situations. But I think it's a positive thing. it's something that I'm an indoor cat, man.
Sure.
And for you guys to like put me in a situation where it's like, hey, go do this thing, I go, and I might drag my feet, but this is good. This is like a thing that I love, and that in retrospect, I'm like very grateful for all of these relationships and experiences that I've had because of this. So that was the first time that I was like, oh, Mike's cool. And maybe we're friends now, because I also have a different gauge of that, of where I was like, I know Mike and I've known him for several years, but it was always like in parties.
Sure. Whereas I'm in the opposite. I'm just like, me and Zander are actually like really good friends. I know a lot about him, and like we hang out all the time.
So that was the first time that I think you and I really hung out. In my mind, that's the moment where I was like, Mike and I are friends now. And then the year after that, Renee and I lived together. And we were all in that
apartment complex area.
Yeah, we all lived nearby. And then we were roommates. They were roommates. And and that was where the show started. So that was, and that's the moment that I kind of don't have like a great memory of, because I think you had shown me maybe in confidence, in secret, the lost episodes of this podcast.
Oh, sure.
And you were like, what if we did this but for real? And then we did.
So my memory of this is, so you and I, we eventually, Kelly and I were just talking about this. We're like, why did we move out of that apartment complex? And I think the answer was that it was too expensive, like for the time, right? Remember apartments cost $675 a month or something like that. Yeah. It was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then we moved into that big house with Brian and Kelly and you. It's like the four of us living there. Mm-hmm. And so we spent a lot of time in the computer room, because we had like the dedicated computer room.
Oh boy. Yeah.
But like we were, Brian and you and Renee, everybody who's on the show, and when we first got it started, we're working on that website, destroythecybe.org, right? And I had been talking to some people that I knew about doing a podcast, particularly that guy George. And George was like, he and I would go and drink beers at the local bar down the road from that house. And then we would just talk about comic books for 2 hours. And he's like, we should turn this into a podcast, man. It's a great conversation. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea, George. But I distinctly remember very, very nervously asking you if you would be interested in editing a podcast, because at the time you were working the very manual labor job, right? Mm-hmm. And you were like, I still need to do something in the industry. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, you could edit this podcast, and that could be like ongoing, like I'm doing this thing, right? And mm-hmm. obviously your career has gone in like a very different direction, but still you're editing the show, and we've, for 10 years, 11 years. And so it's very interesting that like, I don't know, I feel like I pitched you this idea, and it was just like would you be up for doing this? And I'm like talking every single week, like this will be a weekly show, because I had a pattern in my head, because I had done so much podcasting before, and I was like, we got to do it every week. It's got to come out on the same day. We've got to have all this, we've got to make sure that we have good mics, and we got to have all this other stuff. Yeah. And Kelly's mom had like gotten me a podcast microphone, because I put it on like a wish list or something, and I was like, it's all coming together. We got to do this thing, right? And then, of course, we have the worst audio ever, because we're recording like mumble. Back in the day, we're recording the mumble audio for people that are calling in. And then I had Paul come to my house and, record on the basement on one camera or one microphone. But it was, I don't know. I feel like I threw this I feel like at the time, even like big ask at you. And I said, are you up for this? And you said, yeah. And then I just never heard you say, I don't want to do this anymore. And here we are 11 years later. Because I think I've said a million times, like one, like I knew you had the chops to do this, because I worked with you on TV shows and things like that. I knew you knew how to edit. I knew you had the ability to do it and make it sound good. And that, I think you and I would, in my mind, we would butt heads about like where the quality was and what we needed to do to increase the quality or whatever. Because, even to this day, I'm still getting notes from you. And I think they're great of like, you got to stop saying that person's name wrong. We've got a whole document about this, Mike. And I'm like, shit, But yeah, I feel like I asked you to do this, and then we just kept doing it, and like life continued to move on. Which, of course, in January of 2015, I asked Zander to do this thing. 4 months later, I'm like, hey guys, I'm moving to New York.
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah,
I mean, I forgot the timeline of that.
Yeah, I know, because I remember I moved And I was so worried when I started that job at Comixology that I wasn't going to be able to do the podcast anymore. And then I asked my manager, and he's like, just don't mention anything about Comixology. You can't say anything about Comixology. And I said, okay. And I never did, outside of like, you could buy this on Comixology or blah, blah, blah. And then like I left all the criticism to everybody else, much to the chagrin of other people that I worked with at the time. And they were like, hey, your friends are talking shit about the company that you work at. And I was like, it's not me, is it?
Yeah, we definitely said some stuff.
We did some stuff.
We were pretty harsh.
Anyways, but Zander, okay, we've gone to the history of this. Who are you exactly? I talked a little bit about your work, and you are more than just the work that you do. And in fact, I don't even think that your work is relevant to the conversation here, because you are a much more interesting person than that. You're a much more creative and like fun person than the job that you do. So like, what is it that you do when you're not sitting here editing the podcast every week? Because I know you do a whole bunch of cool stuff, but I don't want to just read all that out.
I mean, I think that's such it should be, it's one of those icebreaker questions that I loathe, right? Who are you? And then I look at myself and I'm like, who am I? Somebody post that Jackie Chan gif from the movie Who Am I, where he shouts, who am I at the sky?
Who am I?
If a person is a collection of their interests and the things that they do, I can list that.
I mean,
but got my degree in filmmaking or communication and media. My focus was in lighting, cinematography, and sound editing. So I think when you were like, let's do this podcast, that was me going, yeah, let's do that. I was working, a very manual labor job at that point, because we had this cool, for extra context, because I know a lot of our listeners are not natives to Michigan. Used to have this thing called the Michigan Film Incentive, where the idea was they would give tax breaks to film projects to like come to Michigan. The idea was we would build some sort of like second Hollywood. Obviously a dream. Then they got rid of that. It did work for one glorious year. There were a bunch of projects here, and me having my degree here, I thought, oh, I could just stay here in the area. Got rid of that film incentive. Industry disappeared. And then my options were move to California or Chicago or New York, or change industries, which is what I started doing in 2018. I, in part, credit you for conversations that you had. You were like, man, computer programming is so fucking easy. Just learn how to do these things.
I don't know if I said that.
I think in some moments you did. That was at least the vibe that I got. Started learning that. That was the industry that I changed to. So a lot of I in the timeline of things, I thought
Thanks, Danny.
I thought that being on the podcast was it was like one of the it's just a scheduling thing. Like I was trying to take classes and go back to school for changing industries, and I did not have the bandwidth to do both that and then like continue participating in the podcast in the way that I wanted to. I guess in the rest of my time, big reader, big writer. I have been running, for example, D&D games for, we just are wrapping one up, have wrapped one up after 7 years.
No, that's not
2019, man.
I know.
Yeah, which is not to say how long the game was, more like that's the scheduling bugbear that we had to fight.
We had like gaps of like 4 or 5 months in some cases.
But I think the thing that really brought me to filmmaking, the thing that brought me to comic books, the thing that brings me to the podcast, a lot of my interests are tied to storytelling and how storytelling helps us convey ideas and emotions to each other. I think though that is at the heart of most things that I do. How can I tell this story? How do I communicate? And maybe that's like the stuff from my therapist of like, am I ever really feeling understood? Is that the,
I mean, I think we all ask that question to ourselves all the time, right?
Right. And thinking, having that context, words are the bridges we build to reach each other. I think that is like the heart of the things that I enjoy, the things that I put my time into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can safely say that, you ran this D&D game for me and a couple of our friends for 7 years. And it was like, and I've said this before, I'm going to just say it on air so it's recorded in the ether forever, but like one of the most rewarding games I've ever played in my life in terms of like actually feeling like my choices mattered and that there was genuine risk in the game. Like, we are the big damn heroes, and I think if any of us had died, it would have changed the game probably for the better, because death in games like that are so big and serious are impactful. But like, even by the end of that, man, we're fighting a big old dragon after like all these questions. And again, this is where we're doing a bonus DVD extras episode or get together afterwards to just like ask all the questions and get them answered, which I'm so excited about. But like, I don't know, man, the last chunk of the game, very, very rewarding. I mean, you've got a capability to tell some good stories, my man.
That means so much to me. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that if you asked Rob and Nick as well, they'd say the exact same thing. But yeah, I mean, this is a thing. I mean, like, I do this very awful thing, I think, where I force all of my friends into doing things with me in order to spend time with them, because that's all that I want to do. Is I want to spend time with them. I want to spend as much time as I can, but it seems that the only way to do that in some ways is to schedule a thing, have a D&D game, record a podcast, play Pokemon Go in a scheduled fashion, right? Like, schedule out time for us to play Magic together. And all I really want to do is just like sit on a couch and like fuck around for like 3 hours and then go, okay, I'll see you later next week, whatever, right? And it's hard to convince people because it feels like there isn't like a goal, and it doesn't need to have to be a goal, but like, yeah. Anyways, it's what I'm trying to say is that has been a very rewarding experience, and not only that the game was fun, but I got to spend time with you for 7 years straight, and that's really, really cool. Even though we live across the country from each other, so yeah, I don't know. Before we're gonna get too mushy. I'm gonna probably cry. So let's we can move past that.
I'm crying already.
We do have a lot. We're burning the midnight oil here, because I realize that we're like an hour into this recording, and we probably should get to some of these questions that the fine folks on Patreon and Discord asked us.
That's what. I'll cut all this out. I'm gonna cut all the. Yeah. I'm gonna cut out the 30 minutes of us crying, and then right. We'll just jump ahead.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say, it has been an honor to just be friends with you for so long, right? And also to work together on a thing for so long. And I know like most of the podcast management that we do is just like through Trello cards, but like it's worked. I feel like it's worked, and we've created a really awesome thing. I think the listeners will agree with that. But we've got to get to these questions. I'm not going to let you say anything else.
Oh, damn. I can't even say right back at you. Come on, man.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
I just accept your love and we move on. All right.
Yes,
I don't get to say
just accept my love and move on.
I don't get to say I love you back. Okay.
No, fuck. Matt D asked us a question from Patreon. He said, what's the first comic you remember reading, or a comic that got you into comics in the first place? I think you kind of talked about this, but like, where did things start for you? Because I genuinely thought it was Bone for you, because that was like the thing that I know about you, is I was like, oh, Bone was the book. It's been on my forever to read list because of that. But like, yeah,
so I'm pretty sure that Bone was the first comic. We got this question from Matt, and I was thinking about this, and again, going into my mind palace, and thank you, Danny.
Thank you for the gift about Bone, Danny. Bone. Appreciate
it. I'm fairly certain that Bone was one of the first comics I read, and it was at the very least one of the most impactful for me. I really loved this question from Matt, because I don't think about this. Isn't a thing that I think about like actively, and so to have to like jump in the time machine and go back to my childhood, I think like a lot of people, I grew up reading the newspaper. People our age. Let me just put that out there. I'm 50 years old. No, going back to what I remember from my childhood, definitely remember reading Calvin and Hobbes. but that was like comic strips in the newspaper. I think that was maybe one of my earliest. That was probably the earliest thing that I remember. But going to the library, going to when I did find it, a local comic shop. So let me dox myself even further. I lived in the Fruitvale neighborhood in the Bay Area in California. And my local comic shop that I went to was called Dr. Comics and Mr. Games.
Cool.
And this was on Piedmont Avenue. It still exists. I have not been there in over 20 years because I don't live on that side of the country anymore. It's 3,000
When we do the
miles away.
IRCB documentary for year 20, it'll be you walking into that. I haven't been here in 20 years, like.
But I remember that was, hey.
Sugar says that was their shop too. That's awesome.
Killer. That's awesome. So that was near me. I was not close enough. I think at the age that I was not allowed to go there on my own. It was too far from home. But we drove over there. We walked Piedmont, and that area. Like I would go to the Grand Lake Theater and just hung out in that area. And then when I was a little bit older, I would bike down to that neighborhood. I didn't have money because I didn't have an allowance, didn't have a job because I was 12 years old. But I would hang out in that store and annoy the other people that were there as I just like dug through, put my little grubby hands on all of the comics and reading stuff. But going through that store, going through the library, that was, I believe, where I was reading Bone, which was being released at that time. So I'm certain that I read Bone before the series was over, when it was printed in just black and white. And so that's like one of the oldest memories I have. Some of the other things that I remember is like visiting, family friends, and they had, copies of like Tintin or stuff on the coffee table. And then reading Usagi Yojimbo, which was, I think, the volume 1. One of my friends from grade school lent that to me back in the day. But yeah, that was like I loved that question because it was like a wonderful little trip down memory lane.
Yeah. See, I didn't read comics when I was little. I or younger, right? I think I read like the Sunday funnies, right? I remember distinctly that was like my ritual on Sundays when I worked my retail job at ABC Warehouse in Michigan. I would sit down and I would get a footlong sub from Subway. And then as I was eating that footlong sub, I would read the Sunday funnies. I would never read Prince Valiant because I was like, this is too fancy and proper, right? Even though like in hindsight, Prince Valiant is one of the most gorgeous and celebrated comics of all time. But yeah, that was kind of where I started. And then the first book I got was, I think I've told this story a million times on the show, turning 16, and a friend of mine was like, I gotta buy you a birthday present. And I was like, dude, we are 16, you do not gotta buy me anything. Because we were coming out of the mall and we were coming out of a movie, and he's like, I gotta buy you something, your birthday's coming up. So I was like, just get me this. And I got like a Marvel Masterworks Classics Uncanny X-Men Volume 2 of all things, because I was like, I know the Phoenix, right? I remember the cartoon show, the X-Men cartoon show. And then I read that and I realized, it's Volume 2. And then I went back to Barnes & Noble and bought Volume 1. Read those, by the way, some of the hardest books to read if you're just getting into comics. They're so wordy, they're so dense. But that's when, and it's like after that, I started picking up Walking Dead. Then I heard about this guy, Robert Kirkman. Invincible came into play. I started reading Battle Pope through scans online because I could not find copies of Battle Pope online or legally. And then, the rest is history. I just started buying Image books left and right. And then I started buying X-Men books regularly. And yeah, but my real comic book reading didn't start in earnest until like late high school, early college. And then you lived with me. You knew how many comic books I had. Like, I just didn't stop collecting, right?
You came to my house.
I
saw your walls there. Your bookshelves.
Saw all the comic books that I have, right?
Oh my God.
And that's not even like I had to rebuild this collection, right, from what I had before. So, it's crazy. Great question. Thank you, Matt, for that. Another question. Kate asked this question from the podcast crew, and she said, remind us how the podcast began as part of destroythecybe.org. How do you think the name Destroy the Cyborg will backfire during the robot uprising?
Immediately and swiftly.
I planted this bomb for myself in the past, and there's nothing I can do about it now. But I don't know. Destroythecybe.org was basically me trying to say, can you make words out of top level domains? And destroythecybe.org I thought was great. For the longest time, people did not realize that it was Destroy the Cyborg, and they're like, so for your company, Destroy the Cybe, and I'm like, read the domain, just read it with your eyeballs, read it.
When you told me the domain, I was like, yeah, that's nice, that's good. Like I don't think I was like super impressed, but then like to go when we were getting people saying Destroy the Cybe, I thought, oh, maybe it's too clever for people. Actually, I thought it was just okay, but like maybe it's actually.
I used to read websites that had like ridiculous names that were review websites, right? Like Topless Robot. Do you remember that website back in the day? Like I used to read that regularly. And I was like, let's get something goofy, and that's just going to be like our brand. And for the longest time, I had taken some like 50s era cartoon of like a robot chasing a man, and that was like our logo for the longest time. I don't know. And then eventually, somebody that I used to work with created the old destroythecybe.org logo. And then eventually, IRCB spawned out of that, right? It became a portion of that website because that website was like it started as comic book reviews where I was churning out 2 to 3 reviews every day. Me and my buddy Nick Nelson, who was in our D&D game, we were churning out 2 or 3 like comic book reviews a day, and they were not good. They were not good. But then eventually I, would ask all of my friends, again, this is me just doing the thing that I did for this podcast where I go, hey, you're my friends. You have interest in these things and talking about movies and music and TV shows. Why don't you write reviews for this thing? Again, an excuse for me to work and be close to my friends. Now, again, this is not a healthy way to be close to your friends, right? Because then you're working together and there's like this work friendship balance thing that isn't necessarily healthy. I think hopefully we've gotten past most of that on the podcast, but I think at the time I felt weird to be like, you're my friend and I'm hanging out with you. By the way, where's that review that you owe me? That was a problem. But yeah,
I think, and we've talked about this at least more recently. I think that was like a component of why. Maybe this is jumping ahead to another question, but this was one of the reasons why I think I stepped away from a lot of the stuff, because I had realized that I think I take longer to like process the story that I'm reading. Like it's gotta steep in my head for a little bit, and I don't have the ability to produce without feeling some like level of regret after. Like the hot take, I think is the beginning of the downfall of our society. Like you should think about the things that you say and believe before you vomit them into the world, is my opinion. But because maybe it's just like as a result of that, we have this thing. It's not just in comics, but in every little pocket of things that people enjoy. I've noticed that it's just like it's people saying things that they don't necessarily believe or that are incorrect, that are found to be incorrect later. And I think that's a thing that I'm just like, that I despise that. Just like everyone needs to shut up for a second.
I mean, I definitely understand that. I think, yeah. I can understand that. I think that on the whole, we don't really spit out too many hot takes on the show the same way that, or in the way that you're describing, right? Yeah. Like I think we have in the past, for sure. I'm not trying to say we've never done it.
Oh yeah, but I definitely think too on the show.
Yeah, like, for jokes. Yeah. But I think that on the whole, like, yeah, I don't think that we've done that so often that we've degraded ourselves to be like most other pop culture podcasts that like don't feel thought out or don't feel like well intentioned. I do think that we work with a lot of people on this podcast and have over the years of like that think about the things that they're saying. I mean, we look at our good buddy Nick, right? Nick writes paragraphs of, I think, very well thought out, well intentioned, like intentionally trying to think hard and critically about the work that he's discussing.
He should be
and that's
writing
like
reviews. Yes,
he should be writing reviews.
He should be producing written material.
And that's but I think we said this on Nick's panelist episode. That's how I met Nick. You knew Nick from high school,
yeah,
and you introduced him to Nick, and Nick would put out these huge essays on like these big, beautiful, wordy things that were like, oh, so you like really are doing actual critical analytical work. I don't think that I'm doing that. I don't think I'm thinking as hard as like Nick is, or like even or Paul is in some ways, and some of the other people on the show, right? Like I just it's very impressive, the people that we've come to work with, and I think it's again a really cool thing. And what I'm trying to say is that I do think that we are thinking about our stuff, but I can understand that like urge to be like, I'm going to show up on this podcast, I'm going to give him my hottest fucking take, and then I'm getting out of here, deuces, right?
Right. Yeah.
And maybe that's what we were doing in the earlier days. I think we do less of that now.
Well, I mean, I would say so. There was a time in the early days of the podcast.
We don't talk about the first 80 episodes of the show.
All right. Well,
okay.
So yeah. Okay. All right. Well, then maybe I won't.
No.
Up.
I know what you're talking about. There's one episode that I still cringe over to this day, and I don't want to talk about it.
We won't talk about anything. I mean, we'll talk about things very generally, but in editing, I think I gave some of the, and this is maybe a criticism of myself. I think in shifting to exclusively editing for the show, a part of it was me being dissatisfied with my own participation in the show. Like, I think I ended up saying things that I later did not believe, and hearing myself, having to listen to my own voice, first off, sucks in editing. But then also hearing the things that I say and having to be confronted with, is this a thing that I believe? Even just hours later, and going, oh no, that sucks. Why did I say that? I think was so devastating for me. And then to move to editing, and I think I had like initially a lot of like scathing feedback for our own show, which I regret. But also I think it perhaps kept us out of some pitfalls.
Yes. I think the thing that most folks have said about the show, that they've come to work on the show, is they go, wow, the bar is high. And folks that listen to the show, maybe you think this show is absolute fucking dog shit garbage.
Trash.
But I'd like you to go listen to a lot of other podcasts that are out there. Go find something in the top 50 and just listen to a random episode. Skip into the middle too, right? Not the beginning that's well produced. Skip into the middle and tell me if it sounds better than us in a lot of capacity, or over edited, right? I think there is something to be said. I think we've kept a very high quality bar for ourselves by asking people to have good microphones, to wear headphones, to be aware of like how you're speaking, how we pronounce things. Like, I think we do make an effort. I don't think we're perfect, and there's always room for improvement, but like we have always set the bar up pretty high for people coming on the show. And I think it has turned some people off from like being on the show regularly, or we have gotten, I will say, we have like some people are not on this show because they could not accept that bar of quality, right? Maybe it was a little too high. Maybe we were asking too much of people, but I do think like setting the expectation of this isn't us just fucking around. Like, we actually think this is meaningful and that we want to do something good, like is an important part of what we do. And I think a lot of that does come from feedback from you, right? Like, I think you and I came into things with like an idea, and then you on the editing side of things, because it is very hard in the moment while I'm doing things to be like, guys, stop, fix your microphone right now. It's like, maybe we can just roll with it because I don't want to lose momentum, right? Like, you're doing like on the fly producing, but then the edit, you're listening and you're like, we need to fix this thing. We keep doing this thing and we should stop it, right? And that's a hard thing to do in the moment, but it is good to get that feedback afterwards and then deliver it to everybody who's on the show.
Which makes your job even harder, because you're receiving the feedback from me and then trying to implement it.
Right. Danny, the bar, listen here, you know how to do this. Don't say that we let you host and the bar isn't that high. The bar is high. You respect the bar that we have set for the show. I think that comes from years of us like creating a good world for people to drop into. I think the goal has been like, if Mike steps away, like I have before, like I will later this year, that people can set up and they can show up and they can run the show. anyways, that was a long answer to Kate's question about the history of the show. Destroytheside.org I still think is a very clever domain name, and I'm going to own that till the end of my life.
I'm with you on that.
Really quick, Keith J asks us, what is your perfect sandwich? Quick. Hot take.
Hot take. Man, my favorite sandwich, I think, changes with the seasons of my life. Let me just get really poetical about this. I
seasonal sandwiches make sense. Yeah.
I have some structural requirements for sandwiches. I don't know what happened. I don't know if this is like a regional thing or if this is like an American thing or what. Why is every sandwich so fucking tall? What? I need to be able to put this in my mouth. What are we doing, guys?
Clip that.
So
yeah, I understand.
Absolutely.
But, okay, but if you're going to a sandwich place,
yeah,
and you want the ideal sandwich, what does that sandwich look like to you, Zander?
Right now, in this season of my life, I love a good Cuban. It's not only the size, it does the definition of the sandwich. It's supposed to be portable. It's not supposed to be messy. You're supposed to be able to hold it in your hand and walk and eat this thing, right? This is the sandwiches, in my opinion. This is the meal of the working man. And the Cuban has just enough in it. It's pressed into the shape that makes it easy to hold and carry. And right now, I think that's where I'm at.
Damn. How is it that you stole the exact sandwich that I was going to say?
Because you have good taste. No.
Well, Cuban was what I was going to say. It's my go-to sandwich if I go to a place and they have sandwiches and they have a Cuban. I'm always going to try it because I love people's takes on Cubans. I had one last night. Wasn't great, but nonetheless, I love a Cuban. It's got mustard. It's got 2 types of pork. We got some good cheese. Come on, you can't go wrong with a Cuban. So little mayo if you're it's good too.
There is a local sandwich shop here called Two Beards. You'll remember that place.
Yeah.
I do there is a sandwich there, if I remember correctly. I think it's called the Count Von Count. And it is a vegetarian sandwich. And the thing that and where I'm at with vegetarian food is I don't want it to try to be meat. I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a vegetarian, just let it be vegetarian. That's fine. And I think this sandwich, if I remember correctly, has roasted bell peppers and was it cucumber? I don't know, but it's got these. It's got the stuff that makes it go crunch, and that's that's the good stuff. But yeah, I don't know any of the when they try to do cheese or when they try to do meat. I'm just that. Leave that alone. We don't need that. Just give me the veggies.
Listen, dude, I've had an incredible halloumi sandwich before, right? Yeah. Halloumi as the main course with a veggies and a spread on. Oh my gosh. Listen, with some greens, sprouts. Oh my gosh, dude.
And I will say that I am not very experienced in vegan food, but I do remember specifically Paul of the podcast, I believe took us to if I'm remembering correctly, it was him who took us to a vegetarian place in Chicago when we were there for C2E2. Am I misremembering? Is that Paul? Was that Paul?
I mean, we got Chinese.
We got a lot of food when we were there. This was years ago now.
You're talking
back in the day.
We went to the diner. Was it the diner that we went to?
I can't remember. Okay. But I do remember that being the best vegan sandwich that I ever had. And it had I can't remember what I again, not experienced in this, but it had something that was equivalent to roast beef. And I was like, this is good.
Yeah. Listen, there's some of the vegan places, they do crazy stuff with seitan, but we're not talking, this is not the I Eat Comic Books. I Eat Sandwich Books. Hold on. Podcast. We
could be.
Thank you for your question, Keith. Thank you, Matt D, for your question as well. Let's see. Danny had a question that I think is very fun. For Zander, what's the criteria for picking episode titles? Because for folks that don't know, I'm just going to be real here. The vast majority of episode titles for the podcast after episode 120 is what my estimate is. Zander has picked probably 99% of them, maybe 95% of them. I don't know how you do this. I mean, clearly you're picking stuff out of the show, but what's the criteria bar for that?
So I don't put any of this is not me. This is not I don't want to take any responsibility for these. I am editing the show and I am listening to the people on the episode, and you guys make a joke or you say something funny, and I'm either lifting exactly word for word what you guys are saying, or I'm taking something similar and then riffing on it for a title. But it's all coming from you guys. I'm just, I think if I'm listening to the episode and I laugh out loud in this room while I'm editing, that's when I go, yes. And that's just me trusting my own sense of humor, which might not be everyone's sense of humor. As I
listen, it's my sense of humor too. I think that we've picked some great titles over the years. Like, what's really fun is that patrons know this. Zander usually gives me 1 to 6 episode titles, depending. Some episodes have funnier bits than others, and I'll usually just pick whatever one I think is the funniest. Like, there's the most recent episode is I Know Him from Marvel Snap. Is a dumb episode title. It is so funny in context to me. Honestly, if you know Paloma, if you know the show, it is such a funny title, yes. And that's why I picked
laughed
it. There
out
are
loud
probably
when
more.
Paloma said that.
Exactly. So it's a combination of the people on the show are funny people, and we make good jokes. Zander finds those bits that he finds funny. It's the cream of the crop, and then I pick one. So it is a joint effort between all of us, but
multiple layers of filtering to get to
exactly
the good one.
So thank you for that one, Danny. And then for me, Danny asked me, what would you tell 2016 Mike about the show? You're not going to believe it, but it's still going on. I think that 2016 Mike would be surprised to know that it is so easy. And this show is not easy by any means. I think Kait and Danny, you guys I've been doing a lot of prep to try to train for things that are happening. We're going to talk about that in a second. You guys have been doing a lot of work to see like what makes the show happen every week. And it is not necessarily easy, but compared to 2016, it is so much easier. I think part of that is just habit. Part of that is just knowing what needs to be done and having done it week after week after week. But like, yeah, I think telling myself like the anxiety gets a little bit better. It's not perfect, but it is much better. Yeah, I think overall it just gets easier, which is nice, and it makes. And I guess the other thing is it is just as fulfilling, because I go into weeks and I am in a bad mood, and then I get to Sunday and I go, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with this show. I don't like the work. I don't like the time I have to spend. I don't like how much I have to like read comic books just for a podcast. Am I even enjoying these things? Is it even fun? Is it even worth all of the time that I put into to make the show go out and the numbers don't go up, and it feels like we are just repeating the same cycle? These are my thoughts very frequently. And then I sit down on Sunday and I go, who the fuck gets to talk to me like that? This is the best thing that I've ever done in terms of creative output, right? I've tried so many different things and none of them has felt as fulfilling as this show is. And the fact that it's still just as fulfilling 10 years later is crazy to me. Like, I sit on the microphone on Sundays and I go, this is what all the bullshit is for. So that I can sit down and I can record an hour with my friends and it can come out. And then the people that listen to it say, wow, that was a good time. It sounds like, and I got something out of it as well, right? Like, that is the most fulfilling thing. It's crazy that we're still able to do that week after week. Not to bring us down. I genuinely feel really bad all the time. And then I hit on Sunday and I go, actually, it's not that bad.
I feel bad all the time, man.
Not all the time. You know what I mean? It just, you get into your head that like, none of this is worth the time and effort. And then you sit down and you go, oh, no. All that work was all prep for myself so that when I sit down on the computer on Sunday, I'm ready to go and I can talk. Because you don't realize that there's a lot of like unconscious work, subconscious work happening where you're like reading the book and I'm thinking about how I'm going to talk about it on the show and the things that I want to make sure that I mention. Like, it takes a lot of time and energy. And then when I sit down and I do it and I feel good about what I've said, I go, oh, right. All that toiling was so that I can sit down on Sunday and feel good about this. And I do more frequently than not. I think 99% of the time I come out of an episode and I go, that was great. And that happens so much more often than I think it used to 10 years ago, you know? So.
Yeah. And maybe I'm just doing it wrong, but I've felt that way about every creative outlet I've had.
Yeah, I mean, like, this shit is hard, right? I don't know. I think some people might think talking into a microphone is very tough, or very easy, but like, I don't know. Like, I also have a lot of these worries that you have. Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to regret what I said.
Yeah.
I don't want, like, sometimes I don't think there's been an episode in a really long time where I've said, like, Zander, can you cut that thing out that I said? Right. And it's rare. It's very rare.
Right.
And that's because, like, there's a lot of toileting stuff, but like 10 years of effort, I think I've gotten a little bit better at this.
Yeah.
Professional talker. That's what I should put on my LinkedIn profile. I should get rid of all the software engineering bullshit. Just like professional talker. See how many recruiters email me after that.
Immediately. All the AI ones.
Probably more. Let's see. Boy, oh boy. Zander from Ricardo. Who has the best voice to listen to while editing?
You can't make me pick my favorites, guys. This is so bad. I am impressed by the level of effort that people on this show have put into making their audio sound good. In the beginning, a lot of it was when we were recording in person. It was like I would sit down and futz with the stuff to make it sound good, and then say, "You guys have to sit really close to each other." And I'm like looking at Mike and Nick and Paul and going, "Now kiss," and get very uncomfortably close to each other because we had one microphone in our basement. But this is taking all of the mechanics and principles from. Thank you, Danny.
Stupid Challenger's gift. Thank you.
Taking all of the mechanics and principles from the sound engineering courses that I took in college, and putting that into practice, and when we all started recording over Mumble and separately, the challenge being, how do I communicate the thing that this person has to do on their own miles away from me? And in the very early days of the podcast, I was consistently impressed by the quality of sound that I got from Paul. Both Paul's voice, great radio voice. Secondly,
Paul does have a great radio voice for sure.
Secondly, taking the notes that I was giving for like how to record, and then like taking that and then doing, I believe, doing additional tweaking and experimentation on his end to make it sound good. But I think between that, I think, Mike, you've done an incredible job in like keeping your setup professional, and the sound that I get out of you is like, am I listening to an actual radio program? And then I listen to an actual radio program on the radio and go, this is trash. What are but yeah, I think there's maybe there's like a level of Stockholm syndrome as well, of like I've just been having to listen to everyone's voice every week, and I don't know that there's a voice that I dislike listening to. Yeah. So
that's one of the undefined criteria that I have for the show, is that I'm not bringing someone on here who's got a voice that I can't listen to.
That's why I wasn't on the podcast. That's it.
Let's move on.
Oh shit.
Oh brother. Yeah, we've got a couple of other things. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about, like the shift of the show over the years? I mean, you've been editing the show, you've been listening to it on the other side for like 10 years. How has the shift of things felt for you, in better or for worse?
I think it's become the thing we never wanted it to be. Right? It's the Hangout podcast. But I think there's benefits to that. It's become that because you all, in your weekly creation of this show, are personalities. You have more. You've shared so many of your opinions that people want to hear other aspects of who you are.
Right. And if you don't, send me an email, ircbpodcast@gmail.com.
And a part of this show, as you were saying, is a scheduled hangout with you. This is me forcing my friends to hang out in a way. So part of it gets to be, hey, let's catch up, because we actually haven't talked face to face in some time, because most of our stuff is via text or Trello cards.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like I think the big shift that I have noticed is that like when we first started the show, when I was like really gunning for the show, I wanted us to talk about news. I wanted us to talk about like what was currently happening in comics. I wanted us to talk about like things that were happening that week, because I felt this immense pressure to be like, if we're not talking about what's happening right now, nobody's going to care. And it turns out no one cares what you talk about, to an extent. And I think that for our audience, for the people that have stuck around or have found the show and have stuck around since then, I feel like our vibe is not what's coming out this week and what's happened this week so much as it's about like, here are some good recommendations. Here are books that I'm looking forward to reading next that are new. Sometimes they're not. And like, I think people are, again, maybe I've said this and maybe I'm wrong. Somebody out there who's listening, tell me I'm wrong. Like, it's a show where we are a show that basically gives recommendations to people for things they want to read or talk about books that they've already read that maybe aren't new. And I'm fine with that. I've accepted that. And I think we as readers on the show have come to many people are like, I'm just not up to date with my books. I can't find a new book to read or to talk about because I'm not reading new books right this second, or I'm so behind. There's no point in me talking about a new number one because I'm not even going to be able to get to it for 6 months. Right. I think for a while I was pushing, it has to be something that's new. And then eventually when we made the shift to be, could it be anything? I was like, yeah. And I think the show became much easier for everybody. The pressure was off. And I think it has allowed us to just be a little bit more at ease, which to me makes for a better sounding and feeling show. And then we get to do the post credits. It's us just goofing off for 20 minutes talking about whatever we want. But yeah.
And I think an aspect of that I really appreciate is that moving away from books that are actively coming out, unless you are truly passionate about it, moving to books that you're excited about reading that maybe came out years ago, allows us to shift conversations in the direction of the thing that I care about more, which is how does the story affect you?
Yeah.
The story that we're reading, the issue to issue stuff can be just exciting. Like I haven't followed a big 2 book in a while, but I recall it's like big action. It's like the Marvel Cinematic Universe of just like, this is a popcorn comic that I'm reading, which is fine. But what it allows us to do is move in a direction of, I'm reading this comic. These are this is how it applies to my life, or these are the things that it made me think about. And going back to what I was saying about the core of so much of what I'm doing, so much of what I'm passionate about is how stories help bring us together, is the conversation stops being about the book. The book is the instigation of conversation about a certain topic. How does this book affect you? How does this book make you feel? And if you've read that book and I've read that book, then we can talk about our feelings.
Right. The I Will Therapize You podcast. No, I totally agree. I think that, and that is, I think, been a good direction for us in the whole. I feel really good about it. I think everybody who comes on the show feels really good about it. We do find time to talk about what is happening right now in comics. And the ever present joke of like, oh, we're dating the episode, comes up, which is fine. There's a date on it when it was published anyways. We're dating it by releasing it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's been good. I like the way where we've gone with things. I don't know. I feel like to ask more of people would require more financial incentive or something. I have no idea. But,
yeah, because it's more time, more energy.
More time. Exactly. Okay. Last two things. Big news. Jeff, I want to give you the no prize for this because you called this last year, but this year I'm having a baby. Me and my wife Kelly are having a baby. This kid is going to be born in, as of recording, a month. So for folks, I feel like I should have said something earlier, but you know what? It's okay. There's a child coming and I'm very excited about it. Kelly and I have spent a lot of time prepping our house. That's why Zander and a bunch of the IRCB crew were in town. They got in a van or a couple cars, I guess, and drove across the country. Almost got a van. Drove across the country to come for a baby shower. It's very exciting. I'm very excited to be a father for the first time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know. I've told myself I've been buying kids comics for a while, being like, this kid's gonna be so fucking well read, and I know that they're just gonna hate comics. So
you gotta ease them into it. You gotta let them discover it, and then when I'm
gonna just go straight from picture book to like comic book and go, these are the same thing. It's just this one doesn't. This one has dialogue boxes and stuff. Yeah. So anyways, that's happening, which means that I'm gonna be off of the show for a couple of months as I take time off work, as I take time off from pretty much everything that I'm doing in my life to focus on taking care of this kid. So sometime in February, probably February 8th will probably be my last episode. So the last episode is going to come out on February 11th, unless this baby comes sooner. And
don't say the last episode, your last episode for some time.
The last episode that I'm on.
Yeah, we're ending the podcast now.
Wow,
big news, Mike.
No, so Danny and Kait are going to take over kind of producing things. A bunch of different folks are going to be hosting. Paul's going to step up for a bunch of stuff. Nick's going to step up for a bunch more episodes. So you're going to hear from a lot of voices, because what we've realized looking at the IRCB schedule over the past 2 months as we've been prepping for this is that when I'm not a consistent factor on the show, scheduling becomes very tough. Just to make sure that people are not on the show so frequently that they don't have time in their life and scheduling and stuff like that. So we're going to make it happen. I'm super pumped. I'm very excited to just listen to a comic book podcast regularly and hear what my friends are reading. Maybe I'll chime in here and there. You may hear me on a pre-recorded episode that comes out after I've gone. That's just how pre-recorded episodes work. But yeah, that's the big news. I'm going to be gone for like 2 or 3 months. And then I'll be back, and I'll let you guys know. You'll maybe hear a baby crying in the background in the near future, but it's very exciting. So that's the big news that I wanted to get out of the way.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah. So I do have like 2 other things as well that's not nearly as big and life-changing. I do want to shout out one of our listeners, Sugars, who has stepped up and crunched the numbers for all of IRCB and put together these incredible posters. I think the only people who know about this are Sugars, Zander, and myself. I really have told no one else about this thing, but they went so above and beyond. I cannot express like how much work this must have been to crunch all of the episode data from all of our patron shows, all of our regular episode shows on the feed, including shows that aren't even on the main feed anymore. They found like a website that had like an archive of things, and I was like, okay, I'm glad someone knows where those episodes are. And they figured out like who was on what episode, most consecutive episodes for someone like myself, how many episodes Zander has edited, how many appearances every person on the show has had, how many times they've been on the show with other people, right? Like Paul and Nick and Zander and Brian. That's
impressive.
Bonkers. And so it's really impressive. I genuinely would just want to shout out the incredible work that they did. And they put together all these beautiful infographics. I'm going to put a link to this site in the show notes. For those of you that are listening live, I'm posting a link in the Discord. Go check this out. It's just crazy. Like they turn them into these cards. I might get like a pack of them printed up just for my own, like, look at this cool stuff. But it's really, really cool. So thank you so much for your work on this, Sugars. It's so cool. Yeah, Nick, if you want to make a Wikia, you absolutely can start one. But yeah, really, really cool. I just want to shout them out for this. If you're ever curious about the IRCB by the numbers, we have the data. It's so cool. I know that there's been some talk in the Discord recently about like the work that Sugars has done to put everything together and crunch all this information, as well as processing episodes as they come out, so that someone can create like some sort of page where like you can search for a comic and you can find the episode that we talked about it on. Like it's a thing that I've wanted to do for a while. I just am too dumb to crunch data. And it turns out we have smart people who listen to the show who know how to do that. So maybe that's something that'll come out in the future. I'm putting it out into the ether to see if it's real, but really, really cool stuff. I'm having a baby. All the data's there. That's
everything's going right.
Episode 500. Yeah, everything's going right in the world. For sure. 100%, Zander. I'm not crying. You're crying. Anyways, that's 2 big things. Last question here that Jeff gave us in the Discord that I think is a nice one to wrap the show on. this episode, not the show. Sorry, wrap this episode of the show on. I keep putting out this word of finality. I promise you, IRCB is going to be here next week. We are not done. We are not done. Jeff asked this really nice question, which is, what's the most significant takeaway you have after making 500 episodes of IRCB? According to the data crunched, 776 episodes of the show have been made. 775 episodes of the show have been made. 278 bonus episodes, 156 Patreon episodes, 775 total. It's crazy. What's the most insightful thing or significant thing to take away from this? It's a huge milestone. What keeps you motivated? I can start, Zander. Looks like you're deep in thought.
I'm so deep in thought.
The most significant thing, I kind of talked about this, is like the motivating factor for why I keep making the show every week, right? And why I feel so inspired to keep making it. And that is because I feel like the impact that we are able to make every single week with all the shows that we've done, the Patreon stuff, like the impact is not great, but it is there, right? It exists. Someone has listened to our show and read a comic book based on a recommendation, and they've enjoyed it or they've hated it, but they've taken something away from us. And I feel like I have no immediate, easy, or at least no fathomable way to have impact in this world other than by existing and finding joy in things and expressing that to other people, right? Like there is this common phrase that I keep seeing around right now, especially because we live in a very rough time in the world. Like around where I live, it is not a great thing. Like there are ICE raids happening in every town near me, and it is not fun to hear about my neighbors being so mistreated and like violently acted upon by federal agents. It's awful. But this idea of joy as an act of resistance is something that I cling to, because not only is joy great, it's great to feel joyous, but also the fact that I can still find ways to be joyful in this time, and I can find ways to express that to others and know that like all is not lost, right? Is what is a big motivating factor to me, and reminds me that like we can still live life despite how harsh our reality is right now. And so like the fact that we've been doing this for 500 episodes, it's been up and down. We've had good things. Like during the show's recording, my dad died. That was a really rough time. And I don't think I talked about it enough. I started going to therapy for it, all this other stuff, kept the show going because I like needed to have some way to like be expressive without making it all about like the sadness that I was feeling, right? So we've, as a group, cumulatively have gone through so many ups and downs in our lives, and we've been able to keep this show going. And I hope that other people on the show get the same kind of rewarding feeling out of it that I do, where we get to sit down and we get to talk and enjoy each other's presence for an hour and a half every week. And it's like the fact that I'm on the show pretty much every week is very nice for me, but like it keeps me motivated knowing that like I can take the joy that I find in life despite everything that's going on, put it out into the world, and there's maybe someone else that can find that joy too, right? Because even if just one listener finds something that we did that this week as like an uplifting moment, they can laugh a little bit at some dumb joke that we've made, then we've like done our job, right? I constantly get down on myself because the numbers of the show are not like astronomical, right? We get like 200, 300 downloads a week, but like that's 200. If think of a room of 200 people and they're all listening to you, that's a lot of fucking ears. That's a lot of people that are paying attention. I forget that a lot of the time. So that keeps me motivated when I try to recontextualize where I'm at and I go, oh, we're not some million downloads a week podcast. I don't want that pressure. I don't think I can take 200, 300 people though. And I get a lot out of that. So that is like the significant takeaway, Jeff. I hope that answers the question. I think a combo answered, but Zander, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know that I have the ability to answer this question without getting truly going to a place about it. I think you hit the nail on the head with the fact that, well, let me start over. I think generally not being on the show regularly and being in the editing suite, I feel like I am a listener to this show rather than a contributor. And the thing that I experience as a listener is that community, that sense of community that you kind of were talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't I'm not on social media. I divested myself of all of these weights and chains 10 years ago. And every once in a while I will peek in on the Discord and have some conversations there. But generally I feel pretty separate from the community. But to hear people talk about, to hear you all on the show every week is a nice reminder that there are people out there with similar interests, people out there who have some of the same thoughts as me. And that, I think, is really important for all of the reasons you were just describing. I think that in general, so much of life now is so dark, and our ability to bring light to others is the thing that helps us keep going. Knowing that I think that there are other people with similar beliefs, similar interests, is like a nice little haven in this world, and a good reminder that we are not alone. Because I think that so much of this world is structured in a way where unless you are putting effort into it, it's very easy to be isolated. And I think that is something that I've struggled with. And having this podcast, having the groups of friends that I have, is a wonderful way of breaking free of that little box.
Yeah. So Jeff, thanks for the question. This is a good one. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. 11 years of us doing this thing. I mean, the fact that I'm not tired of doing it. I do get tired, but I'm not tired of it, you know? I hope you feel the same way. And if you do, you know, I've said this to you many times. You just let me know.
I just got to figure my resignation. And then
you get the stock, you know, payout, all that kind of stuff, whatever.
Hell yeah. 401k.
All 47 cents coming your way,
man,
dude.
I've gotten dental from IRCB for years.
Hold on a second. No, this is great. I honestly, like, I want to echo exactly what you said. Like, it is a fine, like, I think the biggest thing that I know that I said when we started this podcast was like, I fucking hate every other comic book podcast out there.
Be the change.
I've said that, you know, and quite honestly, that's not absolutely the truth. You know, I like to have the hot takes back in the day. Maybe every once in a while I still do. But I do think that the community that we've built up around this is maybe the most impactful thing in the entire world for me. The fact that we have such a nice, wonderful group of people on our little Discord. And I know there's so many people on the Discord, and there's so many people who don't speak as frequently as others. But I do find that it's really wonderful to see just how friendly and welcoming and, like, just in general, just like nice everybody is. And I know that's like such a plain thing to say, but like there are many other comic spaces online like that I'm in Discords for, in movie Discords, and that are just not as welcoming, right? Like I found like the 70mm podcast is like what I aspire for our Discord to be, because like it is like a welcoming group of people who genuinely take care of each other. And I think that our group does a lot to help each other out. And I see our Discord and like our online corners of the internet as being like nice places to be when most of the internet feels not nice to be. There isn't a lot of gatekeeping. Like I think we've established like the vibe of IRCB has never been to like gatekeep and push people out and discourage anybody from reading and enjoying things. And I like that is what our online community has become. So I do want to shout out like everybody who has been active on our Goodreads and our Discord. Like you guys have really reminded me that, like, again, this work that we do, these shows that we put out, like, has impact, and it can affect people positively because we've found you and we've brought you all together. And that's not like on us. I mean, the fact that you've shown up and you are good people who have good morals and all this other stuff, like morals is maybe not the right word, but good vibes. It's good vibes is what I'm trying to say. I'm using too many words to describe a thing that I'm thankful for. So let me shut up. But I appreciate all of you. That's what I'm trying to say. You're all good folks, and I appreciate that. So, we didn't get a chance to talk about magic, so maybe we'll do that in the post-credit show. Is there anything else you want to cover before we wrap here, Zander?
I mean, I guess I'll see you in episode 1000, right?
Yes, absolutely, dude.
Hell yeah.
Okay, well, I think that is where we're going to wrap things. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. This is a big, long one, as our annuals usually are, even though it was just me and Zander. Usually we have 4 people on these episodes. It's just me and you today. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Danny, for proof listening. Thank you, Zander, for editing.
Thanks for editing, Zander. Yep.
Thanks for editing. Until next time, though, comics are good, and so are you.